Begin with a 2 to 3 foot wide circle. It can be a container garden or a designated spot in the ground. Using twigs, rocks, or whatever dividers you can find, divide your circle into 6 equal slices. Gather your seedlings. Remember that they should be tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, oregano, rosemary, and thyme. Transplant the tomato into the first slice. You want to dig a hole about as big as the pot, and you want to take out, make sure that it's wet before you transplant, and make sure that your pizza garden is wet too. Try to keep as much of the soil, the original soil in which the tomato plant grew in, try to keep as much of that intact into its roots, because there's already life growing in the roots of the tomato plant, and you want to make this transfer as smooth as possible and keep all the life in that plant's roots happy. So the same thing with the peppers. Take the pepper out like that. Keep as much of the soil in. Make sure it's wet. Now don't be afraid to mound the soil up. You want half of the plant, all the plant's roots in underground, and then you want to mound this soil up so that its roots aren't dangling. The tomato, pepper, what did we say? Basil. Now my basil is very small, so I will be transplanting 4 basils. There we go. And then you want to try oregano. These oregano are super small. I do not recommend transplanting it at this size, but for the sake of demonstration. Oops. See, they're too small to transplant really. But for the sake of demonstration, I will just go ahead and transplant this. So we have our representative oregano in here. But you want it a little bit bigger. Ideally, when the 2 true leaves show, these ones have 2 true leaves. They're still small, but, oh, sorry. Don't know if I was blocking that. These ones have 2 true leaves. The true leaves are the ones that are not. So these ones are the cotyledon leaves. So they came with a seed. And these ones are the true leaves. So when you have basil, the basil plant growing, most of the leaves look like that, these 2 true leaves. Some plants don't have true leaves. So how do you know when to transplant them? Usually when they're about this size. That's a good size to transplant. If you're eager to harvest early, you can transplant as early as you want and experiment, right? And then show since this is the kids' garden, you can show your classmates over on Zoom or the other garden gamers who are playing this who are kids what you've done and when you transplanted it and what survived and what didn't. So that's the exciting part. So that was oregano, and then we do rosemary. I wonder if this is rosemary. This is soft. Nope, it's not rosemary. Let me go. You go on and on until you fill your pizza garden. Now we're going to transplant eggplant. So we just transplanted eggplant.
Sebastian's here.
So now we have transplanted all the elements of our garden except for one, and that's rosemary. So we will just take that now. Should I have rosemary? When you transplant, you also want to get what you think the most vigorous seedling is. Okay. Now if it's bending over to one side, sometimes I'll just add a bit more soil, even it out. And there you have it. So we have our pepper, our tomato, our basils, our oregano, our eggplant. You want them to grow up straight, not tipsy-turvy, so as straight as you can. Our rosemary, and that's our pizza garden. Let's see how it grows this summer.